folks. It's me again. It is Sunday, June the 12th. It's been a weekend since I went out to go see folks at Scarborough Renaissance Festival. I'm still trying to get back into the groove of everything. The streaming shows will come back. I assure you they will. Not just yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Adjust a couple things here. See if this autofocus thing will figure out that I should be seen in focus. Sharper focus here. I'm recording this right off the front of my computer. And so I'm not quite there for streaming shows. I am working on some more songs, including an official bouncy opening song to go with the bouncy closing song and the bouncy song in the middle and Hasselhoff Ballad, all of which are bouncy tunes and seem to go pretty well. But I wanted to finally try and record a story that I told again for the first time at the Ren Fair of Bandera County, and I told it to a storyteller, a young storyteller, in the hopes that they would then be able to take that story and expand on their own storytelling repertoire. And I realized it was a lot of fun to tell. And I told the story again to my friend Paul from the Sea Dogs, hi Weed, who stopped by San Antonio to visit family. And so I figured I'd tell it to y'all because, it's a good story. It's a story that I learned from David Ponkey, who is a really good storyteller and a magnificent human being. He's not been with us for a while, or he's gone back to the library where all storytellers go to read up on things and write down things before they get back on the wheel and come back into the universe. And I thought I'd try telling the story to you folks here via the interwebs and see how it goes. Now, it's going to be different from when I'm telling the story live to live human beings because I can see them and play off them. So this is pretty much me playing off me. And I'm kind of hoping that the fact that I look a little blurry right now, to me, means that y'all can see me fine. It's just because I've got age onset of presbyopia and the screen's far enough away to merit needing my computer glasses, which are right over here. I'm going to check it real quick. Oh yeah, I'm completely in focus. Good. So I'm not actually blurry. I just think I am. I'm a little blurry. It's been a day of nap, which is great. Days of nap are fantastic. But anyway, let me tell you the story. Now you see, the story is called Obedient John. So Obedient Jack. That's what it is, Obedient Jack. Now, Honest John is, of course, Honest John Miller, who, if you know who Honest John Miller is, and you're as old as I am, and you were a sea dog too. Obedient Jack is one of those stories that is an easy layup, as David used to say. You can't go wrong with Obedient Jack. So Jack lived with his mother on a farm in the mountains up here, on the mountain on this side, and then you go down the mountain and you go through the valley. That's where the village is, and you go across. There's this river here, and you go across the bridge on the river, and you go up this other mountain, and that's where Jack's uncle has his farm. Now, Jack's mother and Jack's uncle came to an arrangement because winter was coming, and Jack's mother looked around at how the things were supplied and decided it would be a good idea if they had a little bit more laid aside. So Jack's mother and Jack's uncle came to an arrangement that Jack would go down the mountain through the village and back up the other mountain and work on his uncle's farm for a few days, and then his uncle would compensate him and pay him for the labor, and that would help Jack and his mama get through their winter. So it was a good idea. And she told Jack this, Jack, I want you to go down to your uncle's farm and just do what he says. And Jack said, I can do that, Mom. Because while Jack may not have been the sharpest tool in the drawer, Jack knew how to follow instructions. So Jack comes down off the mountain, goes down into the valley, goes through the village, goes past the sheriff's house. Sheriff's daughter's sitting there and like this, watching the village go by. I should say something about the sheriff's daughter. You see, in this time, in this place, the sheriff was the fellow who would collect the taxes from the village and then send them up to the county. And it was a kind of a tricky proposition because it wasn't the most wealthiest village in the world, and you had to have a certain kind of mind for figuring out how much taxes you could collect without hurting people. And this was a fairly ethical sheriff, let's just say. And so while he still had more money than the rest of the village, he didn't have so much more money that they all resented him. And sheriff's daughter, this is very, very important. You should know about the sheriff's daughter. You see, the sheriff's wife passed away a little while ago, and since then the sheriff's daughter has not been particularly happy with the world. Not sad, depressed, or anything, but she just tends to sit there on the front porch, watch the world go by. And the sheriff has tried all kinds of things. He's hired singers and jugglers and clowns and people to bounce things on their face. And one guy who ate fire, but he accidentally set his own hair on fire, which didn't even get a snicker out of her. But all in just trying to give his daughter a chance to smile and laugh again. And the word's gotten around in the village that if somebody can make the sheriff's daughter smile or laugh, that the sheriff would be extremely generous towards him. That's the sort of thing gets passed around, of course. And Jack didn't really think about it very much. He just knows the sheriff's daughter's name is Gwyneth. Hi, Gwyneth. Jack. And he goes through the village and goes across the bridge and goes up the mountain to his uncle's farm. And his uncle sets him to work immediately. The first thing the uncle sets him to work doing is clearing out some of the land. That's part of the farm. He's had a few acres that have been laying fallow, so he's digging up plants and chopping down a couple of small young trees and pulling up the roots on some young trees, because Jack's a fairly strong fella. He's been working on his mother's farm. He's pretty much the only laborer on his mama's farm since he can remember. And they spend the entire day doing that, and it's a pretty productive day. And at the end of the day, Jack's uncle pays him off with a silver dollar. Now, this is the first time Jack has ever seen a silver dollar in person. He knew they existed, but, Jack's family's not that well off. And a silver dollar in that time, in that place, that could do very well for Jack and his mama. And it was all brand new and shiny, like it just came out of the mint. And it's like, he thanked his uncle and started coming down the mountain and just kind of looking at the dollar, It's like, wow, it's really shiny. It catches the light. And he started to spin it up in the air and catch it. It's watching it, how it catches the light as it spins up in the air and catches it. Coming down the mountain, spin it up in the air, catching it. Going across the bridge over there, spin it up again, and it goes dink, 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 and through the gap between two boards and poof, right into the river. Oh no. Jack's lost his pay. What am I going to do now? And Jack's just kind of like slouching his way across the bridge and into the village and past the sheriff's house, sheriff's daughter's. Jack? Hey, Gwyneth. What's wrong, Jack? Lost my pay. Well, how'd you do that? Well, I got paid. My uncle's paying me to work at his farm, and he paid me a silver dollar. And it's the first time I'd seen one. It really catch the light. It's really pretty. I was spinning up in the air, catching it in my hand, and when I went over the bridge, I lost it and bounced out of the gaps and went in there, and it's gone. The sheriff's daughter's like, well, Jack, you gonna go back up there again tomorrow? Uh-huh. You think you're gonna get paid like you got paid? Probably. All right. Well, when you go get paid and you come back, don't spin it up in the air. Put it in your pocket where it'll be safe. Can you do that? Uh-huh, I can do that. All right, on you go. Jack kind of went back home and went back up the mountain to his farm, and he and his mama had a nice dinner. And the topic of getting paid didn't come up in the conversation, fortunately enough for Jack. And the next morning, Jack comes down out the mountain, goes through the village, past the sheriff's house. Sheriff's daughter's right there on the front porch, just looking at the world. Jack, hi, Gwyneth. You remember what I told you? I will. All right, on you go. Jack goes across the bridge, goes back up. Second day. Now, Jack's uncle has land, but he also has some cows. He's got some dairy cows. And so Jack is set to work milking the cows. And it starts at, stupidly early as soon as he gets up there, and he's milking cows, and he's pretty good at it, and the cows aren't complaining, and that's nice. But it takes a long time because it's only one man, and there's quite a few cows. And he's storing the milk away, putting it into the jugs and the vats and the cans and the tubs for making milk and taking the milk fat and making cheese and making butter and such. And at the end of the day, Jack's uncle decides to pay him, compensate him with a nice big pail of fresh milk. Like the good kind. It's not green or anything. It's got the cream right on the top. Jack's like carrying it carefully down the mountain. It's like I'm going down. Well, I could say hill or mountain because I'm not sure if it was a hill or a mountain, but these are just the two highest places in the entire area, so we're just going to call them mountains, all right? So wait a minute. What am I supposed to do with this? Okay, don't throw it in the air, right? I'm supposed to put it in my pocket. I can do that. And he grabs the pail with one hand, and he pulls open the pocket on his overalls with the other hand. He starts pouring it in. It's a very big pail. There. Whew. Not gonna lose it. And he's walking down the mountain, squelch, step, squelch, step, squelch, step, squish, step, squish, step. Something feels like something's wrong here, squelch. And he gets to the bridge, squelch, step. I'm not going to leave it in the cracks in the grid, squelch, squish. And he's noticing that his pocket, which was kind of full of milk, is now much less fuller than milk than it used to be. And he looks down, and he sees it all down this side is just soaked through. And he's leaving this kind of long trail behind him. Oh no, I lost my pay. Now what do I do? He's a squelch, step, squelch, step, cross the bridge, step, squelch, step, going past the sheriff's house. Sheriff starts like, Jack? Hang on. Jack, what happened? I did what you told me to do. I didn't throw it in the air. I put it in my pocket, and now it's gone. Did you get paid? What did you get paid with, Jack? You gave me a big old pail of milk. See, I got the empty pail right here. And Gwyneth just kind of looks at him for a minute and goes, all right, Jack, don't pour milk in your pocket, okay? Don't pour milk. Go over to the town fountain and rinse yourself off. And if your mama asks, just tell her you got a new bucket and go home. And are you going to go work up there again tomorrow? Uh-huh. You think you're going to get paid again? Probably. All right. Well, this time around, if you get paid that way, don't put it in your pocket. Take the pail and just put it on your head, hold it up there so it doesn't spill. All right, can you do that? Uh-huh. All right, off you go. And Jack went through the village and up the mountain. His mom was quite happy with the new pail, which is good. And they had a nice dinner. And the next morning, he comes down out of the mountain in his clean, dry coveralls. He's got two pairs. The other one is currently hanging up to dry, having been thoroughly rinsed. And he comes down through the village. There's Sheriff's daughter. Jack? Hi, Gwyneth. You remember what I told you? I will. It goes through, goes across the bridge, goes up the mountain to his uncle's farm, where his uncle sets him to work churning the butter from the milk and making the milk that they made yesterday. So he's churning the butter. Now, churning the butter is just long, tedious work. It's just churn the butter. He's pretty strong. You do it in one hand, churn the butter. This arm's getting tired, churn the butter. All day long. And they lay out blocks of butter in the cool room that's underneath Jack's uncle's house. And Jack's uncle sends him home with a big block of fresh butter wrapped up in cheesecloth. Jack's coming down the mountain with this. All right, what am I supposed to do? Okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Don't throw it in the air. Don't put it in my pocket. I'm supposed to balance it on my head as I bring it home. Right, so it doesn't spill. I can do that. So Jack's coming down to the mountain with this big block of butter propped up on his head, wrapped in cheesecloth, and it's a fairly hot day, and he's coming down out of the mountain into the valley where it gets a little warmer, and he's noticing that things getting a little squishier, and stuff's starting to run down his arms and running in his hair and kind of down over his face. And by the time he gets across the bridge, he's just wearing this really messy piece of cheesecloth, and he's all sticky and slimy, and he's like, I don't know. And he's walking through, looking at his hands and past the sheriff's house. Sheriff's daughters. Jack? I'm going to regret this. Jack? What happened? I did what you told me, and look at me. I'm a mess. Jack, you got paid today? Uh-huh. What'd you get paid with? What did your uncle pay you with this time? He gave me a big block of butter, and this pulls it off, and it's like all dripping. This is cheesecloths. Jack. Go back fountain. Wash yourself off. Wash off the cheesecloth. Fold it up all nice. Take that home to your mama. Are you gonna go back up there again tomorrow? Uh-huh. Do you think you're gonna get paid again? I probably. All right. Jack, when you get paid this next time, if you get paid like this again, and you're carrying it carefully, if it starts to get all soft and squishy, when you're going across the river, stop and dunk it in the river, and that'll help cool it off and keep it from melting. Can you do that for me, Jack? Uh-huh. All right, go clean up and go So Jack goes and rinses himself down at the village fountain and takes a very much cleaner piece of cheesecloth back home, and Mama's very happy about the cheesecloth because cheesecloth is a very useful fabric, and they have a nice dinner. And the next morning, Jack comes down out of his mountain wearing his first pair of overalls because they're clean and dry now, and the other pair has been very thoroughly rinsed, are currently hanging to become less buttery, and comes down the mountain, goes into the valley, across through the village, past the sheriff's house. Sheriff's daughter's like, hello, Jack. Remember what I told you? I will remember. I will do what you told me to do. He goes across the bridge, goes up into his uncle's farm on the other side of the mountain, and now this day, it is hot and it is dirty work because he is mucking out the barn to get it ready to bring the animals in for the winter. It is not clean work. It is not clean work at all. But it has to be done. So he is mucking out the old hay and sweeping and scrubbing the walls and sluicing out the troughs and just all this stuff, and it's dirty work. And his uncle lets him clean off at his well so he doesn't look like a complete disaster area when he comes home. Goes up to his mama's farm. And the barn cat, now with every good barn there's a barn cat. The barn cat's job is to chase away or otherwise dispose of rats, mice, and other vermin that might eat the grain that you store in the barn. And this particular barn cat was a mama, and this particular mama cat had some kittens, and the kittens were at the age where they were just about ready. They were ready to find new homes because that way you don't have to feed all them barn cats in one barn. You're supposed to spread them out, and Jack's mama's farm has a barn, so Jack's uncle gave him this nice little stripy kitty. Her eyes were open. Looks all sweet. Big old eyes. Beautiful, cute little kitten. Now you take that kitten home and you tell your mama that barn cat, that's her new barn cats. I will do that. He's carrying kids. I shouldn't put it on my head. That's not. And carry it very carefully. Right down. And he's petting the kitten as he's coming down the mountain. And he's petting the kitten. The kitten's just kind of leaned in next to him, settled in. And rubbing her head against him. So it's getting purring. It's getting kind of, starts to seem like sagging. It's getting all soft. Kind of melt. Oh no, it's melting! What do? Don't throw it in there. Don't put it in my pocket. Don't put it on my head. If it starts to melt, he takes the kitten in both hands and rushes to the side of the bridge and dunks the cat in the river. Now, the next 5 minutes are a bit of a blur to Jack. But at the end of it, as best we can reconstruct, What happened is Jack went to dunk the kitten in the river. And that kitten developed a lot of sharp points. And that kitten went up one arm, over his head, down the other side, down the leg, and ran back to Jack's uncle's house. Now, Jack looked like he'd been pulled backwards through a blackberry bush twice. And that blackberry bush was on the edge of a cliff. And he's just kind of staggering on, swaying a little bit. He's all scuffed up and scarred up and scratched up and mucked up and just looks all beat up. He's not a very happy looking man. Cross the bridge, through the village, past the sheriff's house, sheriff's daughter's. Lets him get all the way to this side. Jack? Huh? Jack, what happened? I did what you told me to do. I didn't toss it in the air. I didn't put it in my pocket. I didn't put it on my head. It was getting soft and melty. I dipped it in the river. Jack, and I'm gonna regret this. Jack, what did you get paid with today? He gave me a kitten. And the sheriff's daughter didn't say anything for rather a long time. She just did this. Just breathing. And Jack waited, because Jack was polite. Also, because kitten started walking again, it was going to take some effort. And he waited until she finally came out of it. Jack. I need you to listen to me very carefully, Jack. Are you listening to me? Uh-huh. Are you listening carefully? Uh-huh. Jack. Are you going back up there again tomorrow? Yeah. Is he likely to pay you the way he paid you today? Probably. All right, Jack. In the event that he pays you the way that he paid you today, do not, under any circumstances, dunk a cat in the river. Please say what I just said to you. Do not, under any circumstances, dunk a cat in the river. Good. Okay. If he pays you that way again tomorrow, what you want to do is you want to take some string and you tie the string around the kitty cat very carefully, make a little kitty cat harness, and then you can walk the kitty cat down the mountain and across the bridge and through the village and up the mountain and get the kitty cat safely to your farm. Okay? Uh-huh. Think you can remember that? Uh-huh. All right. Go clean up I don't even know why I have to tell you this. Go clean up at the fountain, and good luck tomorrow. And the cat goes and cleans up at the fountain, and goes home. And Jack's mama asked him why he looks like he was pulled backwards through a blackberry bush twice, and the blackberry bush was on a cliff. And he said, I had a slight accident, which is true. And so the next day, Jack comes down the mountain, wearing his second pair of overalls. The first one are currently in for repairs because it had a small razor-bearing kitten go all the way through it in several places, and goes back through the village. And sheriff's daughter's watching him this time because she has an idea something's going to happen. Hi, Jack. Morning. How are you? Better? You remember what I told you? Uh-huh. On you go. He goes across the bridge, goes up the mountain, into his to his uncle's farm. And now his uncle has a few acres, and on one of those acres he actually has a lot of apple trees because it's the kind of place where you can grow apples. And it's being close to wintertime, so it's time for those apples to get picked. So Jack spends a lot of time going up and down a ladder picking apples, learning how to tell the good apples from the bad ones, and picking the apples that you're going to sell to eat like that, and then picking the apples you're going to make cider out of, and picking the apples you're going to chop up and feed to the farm animals during the winter. And at the end of the day, he helps his uncle make up a couple big batches of cider, just running the apple juice press, and you got a big lever, you got to pull it, squishes the apples down, and Jack's pretty strong, so he's like, yeah, I can do this all day long. I really don't know why. People are upset. And at the end of the day, Jack's uncle sends him home with a big old jug of freshly squeezed apple cider. And he's got a jug in his hand, he's coming down the mountains. He's about to leave, he's like, all right, what am I supposed to do? Right? Don't throw it in the air. Don't put it in my pocket. Don't put it on my head. Don't dip it in the river. It'll claw me to ribbons. Uncle, do you got any string? And his uncle is happily gives him a big old ball of string. And Jack goes down on the mountain with the jug. And as he's doing, he's slowly wrapping the string around the jug. And he ties it off. And then sets the jug down on the ground. Takes hold of that, and he starts to lead the jug down the mountain to go home. And that jug is just kind of bouncing along on the end of the string. A-dunk, 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 a-dink, a-dunk, a-dink, a-dink, a-dank, a-dunk, 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 a-dink, a-dink. And then he gets to the bridge. A-dunk, a-dunk, a-dink. Crash! Shatters into a bazillion pieces. All that's left is a little piece of jug, the part with the loop on it, tied to the string. And Jack's just holding it stern. Oh no! Lost my pay! Now what? And he's gonna walk in shell-shocked through the village. Sheriff's daughter's waiting. It actually has something to drink with her at this time because she is anticipating something's going to happen here. Sees him walking with a tiny piece of ceramic dangling from the string. Jack! Jack! Hi, Gwyneth. Jack? What happened? I did what you told me to do. I didn't toss it in the air. I didn't put it in my pocket. I didn't put it on my head. I didn't dunk it in the river so it wouldn't claw me to ribbons. I tied string around it and I let it down the mountain. Jack, what did you get paid with today? He gave me a big old jug of cider. And the sheriff's daughter proceeded to do the following. Rest assured, that was actually lemonade. For the sheriff's daughter, that was lemonade. Jack. Are you listening to me, Jack? Uh-huh. Are you going back up there again tomorrow? Uh-huh. Is it likely he is going to pay you again? Uh-huh. Okay, Jack, I need you to listen very carefully to me. In the event that he pays you, like you got paid today, what you should do is you should take your pay, put it on your shoulder, bounce it up there, keep it steady, carry it down the mountain, across the bridge, and I will be waiting for you right here. Okay? Uh-huh. Can you do that? Uh-huh. And Jack, just throw the string and the broken jug in the barrel over there. Just don't mention it. Don't talk about it at all. Okay. He goes back up the mountain. And Jack and his mother have a nice dinner. And next morning, here comes Jack down the mountain again on his freshly mended first pair of overalls. And goes down the mountain, through the village. Sheriff's daughter is waiting right there, and she's already got a glass of lemonade because she knows how this day is likely to go. Jack, first time she's waved at anybody in a little while, so it's progress. Hi, Gwyneth. I'm going to work again. All right, you remember what I told you? Uh-huh. And Jack goes back up the mountain. Now, I'm going to try and be circumspect about what actually happened that day, but let's just say, remember I mentioned how Jack's uncle had some livestock? Well, one of the cows was ready to bring a baby cow into the world, and, well, Jack helped, and I don't want to get into the details because it kind of disturbs me talking about it, so I can only imagine how it might be to you, but after Jack got all cleaned up and rinsed off, and everybody was hale and hearty, and the cows were all okay, and the new calf was okay, and he did a few other things like helping the mules, getting the mules from out in the field there and back in towards the barn area and at the end of the day, Jack gets paid. Jack's uncle decides that Jack and his mother could definitely use something to pull carts and pull the plow in the farm, and one of the mules. One of the horses got into an adventure with a mule. There was a young mule, had not just been born that day, but was ready to be taken out and, put to work. So he says, all right, Jack, that mule right there, that's yours. Well, thank you. It's the biggest thing you've ever paid me with. It's like, yes, I know. Go and take it with you. All right. He kind of leads the mule by kind of the back and the scruff of the neck, and the mule's like, well, okay, I'm not sure what's going on, but all right. And they get to the edge of the farm territory, and Jack's like, all right, okay, I can do this. Don't throw it in the air. Don't put it in my pocket. Don't put it in my head. Don't dunk it in the river. It'll claw me to ribbons. Don't tie a string around it to lead it home. Right. And so Jack cracks his knuckles, and he gets in front of the mule. Turns around, he reaches back, and he gets one foreleg over his shoulder. He gets another foreleg over his shoulder. And he starts to go down the mountain, dragging this mule on his shoulders, carrying him. And the mule's kind of heavy, and the mule's back legs are dragging because this mule is not cooperating. And gets him down, drags him across the bridge, and the mule's hooves go ka-dunk across the boards on the bridge, and over the bridge and through the river and into the village, past the sheriff's house. Sheriff's daughter's right there, waiting, and she sees this grown man dragging a mule by his forelegs over his shoulders through the village, digging two deep furrows in the dirt. And she looks at him. Chair backwards, laughing and kicking her heels on the porch and just cackling up a storm. And Jack's just standing there. Well, I was doing what you told me to do. And she's just laughing and cackling and beating at the floor with her fists and her feet. And the sheriff, who's had a long day of trying to figure out exactly how much money he can take from the villagers without being, set on fire, comes out from the house. What's going on, Gwen? And sees his daughter lying there, kicking around and kicking her legs up. And all Jack sees really is like the porch railing and some ankles and stuff. And he looks over at Jack. And he sees Jack for the first time. And he sees Jack carrying half a donkey. And he goes over and he leans on the railing and he says, "Excuse me, aren't you Jack from up the mountain there?" "Yes, sir." "What exactly are you doing?" "I'm doing what your daughter told me to do. I didn't throw it in the air. I didn't put it in my pocket. I didn't put it on my head. I didn't dunk it in the river. It'll tear me to ribbons. I didn't tie a string around it. I put it on my shoulders. I'm carrying my pay home." And the sheriff's daughter's still down there on the porch, just cackling, giggling, and just looking at us. "That's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing. Jack is carrying his pay home." The sheriff looks at Jack, looks him up and down. Jack's a big, strong lad. He'd have to be to carry half a donkey, whether the donkey's cooperating or not. Like I said, so you know something, young man? You have got to be the smartest man I have ever met in this entire village. That you see what you've done? My daughter's laughing. She's laughing. She hasn't laughed for, I can't even remember how long. You stay right there. Whether you are, I'm fine. I'm just all right. Daddy, yeah. This one right here. This one right here. This guy. Him. You really? Yes. Yes. Oh, I haven't felt as good in years. Well, all right then. Jack, your name is Jack, right? Could you put the donkey down, Jack? Oh, sure. The donkey, collapses. You stay right there, and he rushes back. And there's great prodigious sounds from inside the sheriff's house. And Gwyneth is still, she's recovered halfway, she's now leaning on the side. That was the funniest thing that happened in my whole life, Jack. Oh, if we could teach you some things. Oh, you have got to start coming to school. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness me. Oh yeah. And Jack and the sheriff comes out and he says, all right, I made a promise to myself. Anybody who could make my daughter laugh, I was going to be very generous to. So if you come with me around the back here, and Jack follows the sheriff around. Well, let's just say that by the end of that evening, Jack was on a wagon which had several trunks in it, filled with about 1/3 of what the sheriff had made that year, along with the sheriff, along with a still giggling Gwyneth, because she's still can't tell your mama all about this. This is gonna be so good. Being pulled by the mule. I have to make this very clear. Being pulled by the mule. Yeah. Up the hill and to Jack's mother's farm. And I think that they're still around today. They are doing, all of them are doing just fine. And that, my friends, is the story of Obedient Jack, as I learned it from a man named David Ponkey. And you have yourself a marvelous evening.